Did you know most self-coached female runners over the age of 45 make the same 5 mistakes and don't even realize it? These slip-ups can stall your progress and even lead to injuries. If you're a female runner over 45 and you're training on your own, there's a good chance you're making at least one of these mistakes. We're going to show you what they are, why they're holding you back, and what you should do instead to help you run better and get better results. Think of training like following a recipe. If you leave out key ingredients or just throw things in without any structure, there's a good chance the end result is not going to be what you had planned. The same applies to your running. Without the right approach, you'll stagnate, overtrain, or get injured. And the good news is, fixing these mistakes is easy once you know what you're looking for. By the time you get to the end of this video, you will know how to train more efficiently and run stronger without second guessing your plan. Okay, Dev, let's get into mistake number 1. Let me paint you a picture. I know you like to cook at home. Imagine you're cooking and every single meal you make, no matter what it is, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you use exactly the same heat. Not low when it needs to simmer and not high when it needs to cook quickly, just medium every single time. At first, everything kind of works. Nothing's burned, nothing is completely raw, but nothing is ever quite right either. And over time, you stop improving as a chef because you're never really using the right intensity for the job. Now, most female runners don't realize it, but that's exactly how they train. They go out for a run and everything sits in that same middle effort. Feels controlled, it feels productive, it even feels like you're doing good training. But here's where it starts to quietly work against you, because when your easy runs are just a little too hard, you carry fatigue into the rest of your week. And when it's time to run properly hard, you simply don't have the capacity to go there. So instead of having a clear, purposeful session, everything starts blending together. You're not truly recovering, but you're really not improving your speed either. And that's where a lot of runners plateau for months, sometimes years, without understanding why. So, Dev, what should that actually look like?
This is where structure really matters, Sean. What we're aiming for is contrast in your training. Some runs need to be genuinely easy, and I mean easy enough that your body can recover, adapt, and build that aerobic base properly. That's where you're improving things like your mitochondrial density, your capillary networks, and your body's ability to use fat as a fuel. And then separately, you have runs that are deliberately hard, where you're developing speed, efficiency, and your ability to sustain an effort. That's the separation, the contrast that allows each session to do its job properly.
So the question becomes, how do you actually know if you're getting that balance right?
That's a great question, Sean. So here at Coach Parry, we really like to use heart rate, but we can use perceived exertion. And once we know a little bit about the athlete, we can also use running pace. But in terms of knowing exactly what intensity you are running at, we really want to use heart rate where we can. Now, it does mean having a device that can accurately measure heart rate so that it can tell you that you are in fact at 70 to 75% of maximum or 75 to 85% of threshold. The other way we can do that is much simpler, but you really do have to be honest with yourself, is to say, what is my perceived exertion? And the best way to peg that perceived exertion to something is to use the talk test. So if you're breathing too hard to be able to have a robust conversation, much like we are having right now, then the chances are that you are running your easy runs too hard. And as soon as you can run your easy runs too hard, you're going to compromise your ability to do the hard work hard enough. Basically, if you're gasping for air all the time, it's a good sign that you're running too hard too often. That leads us nicely into the mistake number 2. And it's one of the biggest reasons we see self-coached runners plateau.
Yeah, exactly right. Essentially, we don't improve while we are training. We improve when we are recovering from the training that we have done. And that is the second mistake that self-coached female runners make, is that they don't allow recovery. It is linked on one hand to this idea that they are doing a lot of their training at the same pace, which means they are kind of compromised and tired all the time. And it means that they are training again before they are properly recovered. We can fix that to an extent by training at the right intensity. But even when we fix that, you've got to build recovery into your training plan. You've got to have days where you allow for the work that you're doing to take effect. And what do I mean by that? It's because when we are training, we are actually doing damage, physical damage, and we are compromising the body physiologically. And in the recovery period, your body gets to work to repair that damage, make those areas stronger so that you can perform better the next time out. But also it improves your body's ability to provide the energy and oxygen that it needs to perform the aerobic exercise. So the question is there, Dev, is there an easy fix to this?
There is, and it's easy, but it doesn't mean it's simple. So really, what we need to do is schedule recovery days. You've got to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. You want to make sure that you're getting your nutrition right. So sleep is one of those sort of cornerstone pillars to recovery and where the body is actually recovering at its most. We don't build or adapt to training sessions in a training session. It's when we are sleeping that we're getting the hormone balance right, our muscle tissue repairs a lot better. So it's absolutely critical that we are getting enough sleep and almost focus more on kind of quality of sleep than quantity of sleep. And the same thing goes for nutrition. Now, we're always thinking about making sure that we are fueling our sessions right and getting that part of it right. But our recovery nutrition is as critical. And I'm talking within a 30 to 45 minute window after a training session is when you are best primed to recover. And we need to think about, we've all heard about protein, but we need to think about getting protein and carbohydrates in. The carbohydrates is what helps us replenish our muscle glycogen that we've used during a training session, and the protein obviously for that muscle repair. So both sleep and nutrition essentially are the cornerstones to recovery.
Yeah. In fact, I host a masterclass where recovery is one of the pillars of the masterclass. If you'd like to learn more about this pillar and go deeper into the other 4 pillars that will help you run better as a female runner over the age of 45, book your spot by scanning the QR code on the screen now or clicking the link below. Now, the third mistake is one that really bugs me. And Dev, I do understand it to an extent because we hear all the excuses all the time. And of course, I'm a runner. I've been running for as long as I can remember. So I know female runners don't love going into the gym and getting their strength training done. Plus, they try to convince themselves that they're getting their strength from other things like hill training, or the common one I get is, but I do yoga and the Stairmaster and cycling makes me stronger for running. But unfortunately, as you are getting older, particularly in your late 40s, 50s, and 60s, we are losing strength much faster than you can hope to build it up through running on its own or adding a little bit of cross training. But by doing some resistance training, it will make such a big difference to your ability to run better and to fortify your body against the risks of injury.
Because that is one of the biggest issues that we all have in our late 40s, 50s, 60s, and into our 70s, is that when we hit the ground or when we have our foot on the ground, because of that loss of strength, we also lose proprioception. So our body isn't quite in the right position as we're hitting the ground and as our body weight is moving over our planted foot. And that's what then leads us to get these overuse injuries more frequently than we used to when we were younger. So this is one thing that female runners really cannot afford to get away with as they get older.
No, and you don't need to lift heavy necessarily at a gym. Just 2 to 3 short sessions a week, even at moderate intensity, will still help. Whether you're focusing on core, low body, hips, and definitely a little bit of upper body work is going to make a massive difference. And I'll add a link to our free online strength training class that you can actually do in the comfort of your own home with no equipment needed. Okay, Dev, let's talk about mistake number 4.
Well, actually, Sean, you made a really good point there about not needing to lift heavy. Because that's actually a really common excuse I hear from female runners that say all the time who don't want to do strength is, I'm going to bulk up. So I'm really glad you pointed that out. And now that you know, you can actually get strong for running without getting heavier or bigger. Mistake number 4 is actually linked to that. Female runners over 45 typically get really enthusiastic. One of the issues with self-coached athletes is that they build up too quickly, both in volume and intensity. You really want to take a little bit of a stepwise process here and build up slowly. A great rule is actually the 10% rule, where you don't build up your overall volume week on week by more than 10%. And you try to make sure that you very seldomly have a run in a week that exceeds 30% of the total volume of that particular week. If you stick to those rules, you will build up slower and avoid the dreaded overuse injury. And next, we have probably the biggest mistake we see in self-coached runners.
Yeah, and that is that they have no structured plan. So many self-coached runners just go out and kind of do what they feel like. They don't have a plan that progresses well. They don't really know what they're doing on what day. And that makes it very difficult to fit in what they need to do, running at the right paces depending on what the session calls for on the day, spacing workouts apart from each other so that they can get in the recovery they need. And they've got no idea where they're going to fit in the strength training. And so even if you self-coach, following a proven structured training plan can really make a big difference in your training. Here's the thing, fixing these mistakes is just the start. If you really want to take your running to the next level and make sure that you are faster than 98% of the females over 45 on the planet, then we've got the perfect system for you. And all you need to do to learn how to implement it is click on the video on screen.